Welcome to Moody Skies over North London. This is Alexandra Palace, and you may recognise that massive aerial if you've been to London and looked out north, which you often do when you're in these high buildings. That's either at the Shard or alternatively at the new Horizon 22. You look over this way and you find Alexandra Palace, otherwise known as Ali Pali. And today we're going to go exploring not just the building at the top of the hill, but round the park area as well. And as you can see from the map, there's quite an area here. So we're going to start inside and look at this impressive roof, and we're going to tell you about some of the history and why it's so associated with television. So Alexandra Palace was originally built by John Johnson and Alfred Meeson and opened in 1873. But after an auspicious opening, it had a fire 2 weeks after, and it was rebuilt by Johnson. Now, it's intended as the People's Palace, and it's often referred to as Ali Pali, and its purpose was to serve as a public centre of recreation, education and entertainment. Basically, it was to be North London's counterpart to the Crystal Palace in South London, which is another place we've got to get to and visit. Now, at first, Ali Pali was set up as a private venture, and in 1900 the owners planned to sell it and Alexandra Park for development. Now, a group of neighbouring local authorities bought it, and an Act of Parliament created the Alexandra Palace and Park Trust. Now, it was a stipulation of the Act that the trustees maintain the building and park and make them available free for use and recreation for the public forever. Now, if you're looking at all of this and thinking, that's TV, what the heck's this place got to do with TV, Steve? Well, in 1935, the trustees leased part of the palace to the BBC for use as their production and transmission centre for their new television service. In 1936, it became the home of the BBC's first regular public television service, and the broadcast system was a 405-line monochrome analogue television, the first fully electric television system to be used in regular broadcasting. Hence, you've got all this from way back when. Now, although other facilities soon superseded it after the Second World War, Alexandra Palace continued to be used by the BBC for many years, and its radio and television mast is still in use, and that's that big one we showed you right at the beginning. I had no idea it was still in use either. Now, the original studios A and B still survive in the southeast wing with their producers' galleries, which is this part of the inside of Alexandra Palace that we're showing you now. Here you go. This is the top of the television tower, which is originally there, the top section of a 200-foot tower. Can you imagine going up there in the winds and the storms, seeing the days like it is today and seeing the thunder come over? Now, also here at Ali Pali, you've got the original Victorian theatre with its stage machinery, which still survives, and it's in use today. Now, the theatre and the stage structure is on English Heritage Buildings at Risk Register, and that's because Alexandra Palace became a listed building in 1996, but it was that, thankfully, which stopped a planned commercial development of the building into a mixed leisure complex, including a hotel, replacement ice skating rink, cinema, 10-pin bowling alley, exhibition centre, etc, etc, and because it was listed, it was blocked by the High Court in 2007. So when most people think of Ali Pali, they think of the big building on top of the hill, but what they don't think about, and most people don't know about, is the fact there's a massive green area of space to run around and enjoy, and basically just take in the London air. And here is the Rose Garden, which is right by the side of Ali Pali, and everything also has been pedestrianised to make it easy for accessibility. So if you're coming down here and you've got a chair, or you've got pushchairs, buggies or anything else like that, you can get round here quite nicely. Although some of the areas leading up to Ali Pali can be quite steep, and it's so steep in parts that it makes it quite challenging for anyone, fit or not. Let's continue telling you about the history of the palace, because it continued as the BBC main transmitting centre for London until 1956, interrupted only by the Second World War, when the transmitter found an alternative use, jamming German bombers' navigation systems. In 1944, a German doodlebug exploded just outside the organ end of the Great Hall, and the rose window was blown in, leaving the organ exposed to the elements. In 1947, some of the pieces of the shattered rose window were incorporated into a new design by architect E.T. Hesfeld during renovation of the bomb-damaged public buildings by the Ministry of Works. And I don't know about you, there's just something really calming about looking at a pond, but then when you see water lilies with flowers on them, wow, it really just does add to it. So you can see already why that radio mast, which is massive on the outside of the building, is such an iconic feature of Alexandra Palace. But in the early 1960s, an outside broadcast was made from the top of the tower, in which the first passage of a satellite across the London sky was watched and described. Now it can continue to be used for BBC News broadcasts until 1969 and for the BBC's Open University until 1981. Now, the antenna mast still stands and is used for local terrestrial television transmission, local commercial radio, and also for DAB broadcasts. So basically, if you're up here, you're going to get a really good signal. Now, the main London television transmitter is now at Crystal Palace, which is in South London. And funny enough, we've been around there before when we've done some of our Christmas coverage, when we've covered Lightopia, which comes directly from underneath the mast at Crystal Palace. We've done that a couple of times. So you can see that in some previous videos if you want to see the Crystal Palace mast. As you can see here, another one of the big attractions here at Alexandra Palace is this. It's called Go Ape, and as you can see, it's a tree-top climbing frame area, not just for children, it's for adults as well. And this has got to be the day where there you go, it's not in use, no one's using it, so actually got free reign to come and film it, which makes a pleasant change, because I can guarantee you in the middle of summer this will be absolutely heaving as people are zip wiring here, there and everywhere across this fantastic area. Haven't looked into the prices, but you can go online and have a look if you fancy coming down here during the summer holidays. Now, also at the top of the park, right near the palace itself as well, so it's fairly flat and easy to get to from the car park round by the side of Alexandra Palace, you have this fantastic pond or little lake that they've put in here. And as you can see, you've got pedalo, so you can guarantee this area will also be busy during the summer. Plus, you've also got this coffee shop as well, which is where everyone will sit and watch everyone else on the pedalos and generally take it easy. And with a number of benches going around here as well, it's a great place to sit and watch the birds. That's providing they don't come at you because you're sitting there and they can see your food. Yeah, word of warning on that one. Right, let's tell you a bit more about Ali Pali's history. So, in early 1980, the local council, which is Haringey Council, took over the trusteeship of the palace from the GLC, which is the Greater London Council, buying it and issuing it for £31 million, intending to refurbish the building. But just 6 months later, during a jazz festival, a fire started under the organ and quickly spread. Now, this fire destroyed half of the building, and the outer walls survived, and the eastern parts did as well, including the theatre and the BBC television studios and aerial masts were saved. Parts of the famous organ were destroyed, though it had been dismantled for repairs, so some of the parts, nearly all of the pipework, were away from the building in a store at the time. So some of the damage to the palace was repaired immediately, but the council overspent on the restoration, creating a £30 million deficit. It was reopened to the public in 1988 under a new management team, and later the council was heavily criticised for the overspend in a public report. In 1991, the Attorney General stated that the overspending by the council as a trustee was unlawful, and so couldn't be charged to the charity. The council for some years didn't accept this politically embarrassing finding and instead maintained that the charity owed the council £30 million, charged compound interest on what it termed a debt, which eventually rose to a claim of some £60 million. And to recoup it, it tried to offer the whole palace for sale. So during the weekends and the evenings, this skateboard park is absolutely buzzing. And inside, an ice skating rink was installed. And whilst this was intended primarily for public skating, it also housed ice hockey teams including the Haringey Racers and the Haringey Greyhounds, the London Racers, and now the Haringey Huskies, as well as Figure Skating Club and also the Alexandra Palace Amateur Ice Skating Club. And I love this on the side of the building, just some of the famous people of the palace, which they just sort of highlight here so you can see. And how about this, the first female camera operator in 1946. It's quite funny because a lot of the palace area is just sort of an empty shell, and then you've got some bits which have been built inside. And it's interesting because the first performances for about 70 years took place in the theatre in June 2004, first in its foyer and then in July in the theatre itself in 2004. Having a commanding position looking back over London from North London and nice and high up, you get some great views across the city. And here you're looking at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is at White Hart Lane, so if you're a Spurs fan you get a great view from here, and actually it's not that far away. Then when we come round the cranes, sorry Leslie, but there's always cranes in London, you get all of the suburbs of London as well, so you get all the various parts as you sort of swing round. And now we're coming to East London, and as we come to East London you've got all of the Olympic Park over in East London, the sky rises that are there you go, that's the Olympic Stadium that we've just gone past, and then as you swoop round you then come to the City of London. Now what I love is just in front of the City of London here you've got all these terrace houses, all of these streets that are leading towards the city over in the East End of London. The Palace is now hosting significant events. It's held Masters Snooker Tournament, which is ongoing there at the moment. They also have the Darts World Championship, which happens here at Ali Pali as well, which, if I remember rightly, happens around Christmas time. And you quite often see people dressed up heading their way to Ali Pali for the darts. Also, in November every year, a large fireworks display is scheduled here as part of London's Bonfire Night celebrations. So not only can you have great walks around the park, you can have a nice big long walk around Alexandra Palace building itself and sort of investigate what's going on. And also you get some great views across Hampstead. So yeah, off in the distance here, which we're showing you, is Hampstead Heath. That's the Hampstead Heath area there in the rain. Now, this area of greenery in front of Alexandra Palace takes you right down, and at the bottom of that you've got a pitch and putt. So not only have you got Go Ape, you've also got the pond area, you've got lots of places you can walk, plus you've also got pitch and putt golf as well. Now you know what I always say, if you're in London look up, and here is no exception. This is the Angel of Plenty, 3.5 metres tall, 100 kilos in weight and made of Portland stone, and actually was built to replace an angel that was taken off here in 1970, redesigned and put back up in 1985 eventually. And finally, when you're snooping around, have a look through the windows and look what we found here. One of the massive halls, and also the organ at the far end there as well. So this is used for concerts and also for some of the sporting events mentioned earlier. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll put another video in the top right hand corner. Hope you enjoy that. See you in there.